Valve, Netflix, Amazon, they all had a large influence on me as I developed my understanding of what an organization culture is. Valve, famous for building Counter-Strike, has this concept of a T-shaped team member, where each team member has a depth and expertise, but also the breadth to contribute on neighboring and adjacency. Something which is extremely critical to operate in a slightly unstructured environment of a startup. Then Netflix, as famously the book articulates it, no rules rule. At Locus, we call it process over policy, that everything is up for debate, there is no sacred cows, and let's evaluate each situation with a very first principles approach. And then Amazon, where Geet and I both worked, we have like bunch of things to pick up from there, but two specific things that we really try and imbibe at Locus is one, bias for action, right? Let there never be a bystander effect. And second, disagree and commit. It's very important to seek disagreement, seek conflict, but then once everyone has settled on a common approach, you really need to be committed to it. It's 2 out of the 14 leadership principles at Amazon. It's absolutely, it's like all the education done on steroids. But a specific thing I would like to call out is in handling diversity. When I started, we were 26, 27-year-old with not a lot of exposure to various cultures, practices around the world, the problems people have, in their geography, in their age brackets. And even with your best intent, you just don't have the knowledge to act on it, right? Over the last few years, that's one of the key learnings that I've picked up, and also see that having a great impact in my personal life. How to be respectful across cultural norms, across geographical norms. Also thought diversity, right? How somebody who's really experienced in arts and how somebody who's really experienced in science arrive to a common point. And both may have different approaches and equally valid approaches. So we encourage a lot of thought diversity at Locus, and then to respect and imbibe that. That's been one of my greatest learnings, and which I'm really thankful to everybody involved in the Locus ecosystem for teaching me. I sincerely hope there are a lot more things that they don't know about me. I love building things. I'm an engineer at heart. I try hard to keep my childlike curiosity alive. I still get excited when, sometimes staring at the moon that, oh man, as a species, we put a man on the moon, right? Like I get excited when a train passes by, or when in a flight, I'm crossing through the clouds, right? It's just mesmerizing to me. I'm actually a hardware hacker personally. I spend a lot of time, off hours, soldering some things, building some small DIY projects. I love sports. I used to be a 10-point-something second runner on 100 meters. We bring actually a lot of sports to Locus as well. Like the Locus Sports Day is the biggest event on our social calendar. I don't collect a lot of things, but one of the things I often do is non-scotch single malts, right? So collecting single malts from around the world. Whenever I get a chance in the weekend, right, with either neighborhood kids or my niece, I love to do a lot of backyard science. There's this YouTube channel by an ex-NASA scientist, Mark Rober, and he's one of my idols in those areas. I love designing these little experiments to teach, pressure, Bernoulli's principle, how rockets take off, and that gives me like tremendous joy. I love being out in nature. I enjoy camping a lot. Being out there, lighting a bonfire, going for a long hike. I love scuba diving. I occasionally fly small planes. And then socially, I love, doing like debates on historical topics. I love both the round table as well as the Lincoln Douglas format. I play poker. I have like a small group of founders. We often either in person if we can, or over an app on the weekends. We got featured in this book called Say No to Jugaad, and that was about making of big basket, and we didn't even know about it. And when I read that and read those few pages on us unsolicited, It just gave me such tremendous satisfaction. On the topic of satisfaction, when recently, and actually also at the Series B time, when we did our first ESOP buybacks, a bunch of people in the team bought their first cars and their first homes. That just made me, fill up with gratitude. I mean, these are folks who gave up the opportunity cost to work at Locus, and, we could help them materialize their first dreams. That genuinely made me very, very happy. Seeing Locus product being used in the wild, right? So occasionally when I need to get a blood test and the 1mg tracking link comes to me, or when I order some furniture and the chroma tracking link comes from me, right? Like, so just seeing the product getting used in the wild, like that gives me a lot of happiness. And I mean, to begin with, I actually have one of the best jobs in the world. I get to work with really smart people on really hard problems for a really long time. And at the end of it, when you see the human impact of it, right? When you actually see delivery boys going back home on time, actually knowing what classes their kids study in, right? When you see warehouse executives making more earning, being able to buy their first fridge. Our product operates on the real world, and seeing that impact come. Like every year on an average, we save emissions which would have taken about 20,000 acres of forest to sequester. So things like that just really, really keeps me going. I mean, and as I said, I really love my job. I feel extremely humbled. I mean, this truly belongs to the team. I have it as a representative of Locus. We'll pause to celebrate, but as Robert Frost said it best, the woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have miles to go before I sleep.